Yes, we are recording.
Great. Okay, David, take it away.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is our 2021 Texas JSA State Candidates Candidate Forum. Usually we'd have this during Spring State, which is this year, April 24th to 25th. But obviously we're in the middle of a pandemic, so that's not really possible to have an in-person candidates forum. So we're doing this online right here and right now. So a couple of rules and procedures before we go ahead. First of all, no slandering candidates. Let's keep this all a very positive experience. We want this to be a constructive candidates forum where JSA members can learn about their candidates. We don't really want to bring negativity into here. You're welcome to bring up other candidates' names, just keep it positive, keep it PG, keep it friendly. Secondly, we'll be going over intros and we'll be doing them from the governor candidates to the lieutenant governor candidates to the speaker of the House candidates. And thirdly, each candidate will have around 1 minute to answer the questions. Christine Rong, our lieutenant governor chief of staff, will be giving you basically time indicators to indicate how much time you have left. She'll be doing so through the chat. Hopefully you'll see the messages pop up. And if you have her on your screen, you'll also be able to see her count down with her fingers when it gets really imminent, like 10 seconds left, and she'll just start doing, 10, 9, 8, 7, you get the gist. Please respect the time. We want to have everyone be able to speak. And in order to make that possible, we're gonna have you, respect the time. I think that about covers it for the rules and procedures. So with that being said, I think we can get started with the intro, starting with our governor candidate, Mr. Jason Yao. You will have 1 minute. And with that 1 minute, you can talk about whatever you want, but obviously please state your name, and also please state one of your favorite JSA memories, and really just anything else you want to let the people of JSA know about you.
Yeah, okay, so my name's Jason Yao, and as David introduced me, I'm running for governor. I guess just real quick, I come from the GCR, I'm from Bel Air, and here's my JSA memory. I know half of you have already heard this, but this is my favorite memory from JSA, bigger ones, is that at Fall State, the last in-person one we had, that was last school year, I remember standing in the podium area, in the House of Representatives room. I remember Lucy Ding, who was the governor at the time and also came from Bel Air. I remember her specifically telling me, or asking me, hey, Jason, you're going to be standing here in 2 years, right? I just remember telling her, heck no, I'm not running for governor. You're not going to see that happening from me. And here we are 1.5 years later, and I'm running for governor. And I guess the biggest change that happened to me this school year, which is why I chose to run for governor, was seeing everyone's dedication in JSA. And I just wanted to give back to this amazing organization, and working as CI director, just meeting new people and meeting these CPs who are working really hard. I just wanted to do the most I could to give back and run for governor. Thank you.
Wonderful introduction. Up next, we have our governor candidate, Mr. Kyan Hao.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kyan Hao. I come from the GCR region, and I'm the current chapter president for the Woodlands College Park High School. Last year I think my favorite JSA memory was pretty much just WinterCon 2020 as a whole, but just because of how much bonding went on between our chapter. We had some antics going on in our hotel room. It was because it was four boys, and then only 2 girls that came that went to WinterCon last year. And we just made crack jokes. We have filled up a bucket of ice, and we tried, because we didn't have water, so we filled up a bucket of ice, and my current vice president Serge Fraser and a couple other people, they tried to melt the ice with a hairdryer just to get some water. So that's my favorite JSA memory.
Thank you. Up next, we have our lieutenant governor candidates, and I cannot speak right now. We will be starting with Miss Deanne.
Hi everyone, I'm Deanne, and as David said, I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. I'm from the Gulf Coast region. I'm the GCR Mayor and the Texas Deputy Director of Publicity, as well as the Chapter President of St. John's. My favorite memory is definitely Fall State 2018. which was my first ever convention in my freshman year. I showed up, and my first ever debate, I was the main speaker, and I had never seen a JSA debate ever before. And it was so scary, to be honest, but I was just in shock throughout the whole convention, because I was surrounded by such amazing people and amazing discussions and people who are just as passionate about politics as I was. So I knew that I found home and that this was where I belonged, and the rest is history.
All right, next we have our Lieutenant Governor candidate, Mr. Charles Ho.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Charles Ho, the current Director of Debate for Texas JSA and a former chapter president of Jasper High School, which is in Plano. As Director of Debate, I've helped sort of usher JSA into this unprecedented online era, working with national conventions and national leaders, such as the MAS Directors of Debate or the PNW Directors of Debate, to deliver the most successful winter cons, fall states, and this upcoming spring state. I would say my favorite memory of JSA is probably fall state last year, when my chapter and I stood around this random pizza place near the Capitol or near the hotel room. And then we just loitered there for 30 minutes because we had too many people for the small pizza shop to handle. But during that time, we made a lot of memories. And I think that's when a lot of my newer chapter members fell in love with the organization because of not just the political experience, but also the community experience. I'm running to make Texas JSA better for every single person, from directors to chapter presidents to regular members. Thank you.
All right, next up we have our Speaker of the House candidates, and we will be starting with Ms. Kelly Hu.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Hu, as David said, and I go to Plano West Senior High School in PMC, and I currently serve as your Director of Publicity, if you know me from there. So I think one of my favorite memories was exactly what Charles said, but since he already kind of described the pizza situation, I think one of my other favorite memories is when I first became director this year. Me and my deputies, Deanne and Alexa, we spent a while writing cards and mailing them to every single agent's houses. And I just really enjoyed connecting with them and also reaching out to new people. And I think it really showed the importance of the people in JSA and also just connecting and working with new people. So that's also one of the reasons why I'm running, because I love the connections I've made and I want to continue that and also bring that experience to everyone else. So yeah, that's why I'm running for speaker.
All right, and last but certainly not least, we have our Speaker of the House candidate, Ms. Rachel Pontes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel. Can you guys hear me? I guess it says okay, perfect. I have some notification on my Zoom. But hi, everyone. My name is Rachel. I serve as the Deputy Director of Expansion, the Vice President of the Bel Air chapter, and I'm a member of the House of Representatives this year. I'm really excited to be running for speaker with you guys. One of my favorite memories, now that I look back on it, was my fall state freshman year, where I think I was in one of those big debates where everyone kind of crowds in. And I had written out my question on my phone, word for word. And I raised my hand, asked it with really sweaty hands, kind of said it wrong, but it was one of my favorite memories and still is, because it kind of represented that first step into getting involved in this organization. And I think it's kind of representative of what everyone in JSA goes through. You come in kind of quiet and shy, and you come into an organization of people that really help you blossom and get involved in politics.
Thank you, and that concludes our introduction. Up next, we will be starting with the questioning part of the Speaker Candidate Forum, and I'd like to pass the baton to our current Speaker of the House, Ms. Ravi Apparasu, to explain pretty much what's going on.
Thank you, David. So we're going to start with Kelly. And to repeat what David said in the beginning, you guys have 1 minute for each of the questions. And so after the first question, we'll flip it. So Rachel will go first for the second question. And then for the third and final question, we'll flip it back to Kelly and she will answer first. So we'll start off with Kelly and I will state the question. So the first question is, what is the biggest hurdle facing the Texas JSA legislature, House and Senate? Why, and how do you plan on resolving it? You have 1 minute.
So I think the biggest barrier currently for the House of Representatives and Senate is the lack of transparency and communication and just generally the resources available. So for example, new Texas JSAers like me, for example, last year, I literally had no idea how any of it worked. And this year, when I did become a member of the House of Representatives back in the fall, it was like the first time I knew everything about it. So a couple ways on how we can address that lack of communication and transparency is first, just to make more resources available, like bill writing guides and just how the legislative process works. And also we can continue our Senate and House recaps this year, like we began on the Instagram, and also just continue to increase our communication and what exactly goes on in the legislature overall, because I think that the process is just super confusing to new members, especially.
Thank you, Kelly. Okay, Rachel, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, I think kind of building off of that, I think the House of Representatives and the Senate is very kind of exclusive to the people that are in it. And I don't think that really should be how it is. And I think we've been making a ton of really great changes to making more and more people know about it, like those recaps. But I think one tangible thing that I want to bring about is having a block during our conventions to explain what goes on in that, House and Senate. And that's where we can kind of explain the role. We can explain how you can run it. We can kind of explain, where you can access the Constitution and see if, there are changes you want to propose. And I think that's the best way, because everyone is kind of already there in a convention. That's the best way to make sure that people are getting to know what actually goes in there and how they can become a part of that process.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, so the second question is, what has been your greatest impact on Texas JSA? So Rachel, take it away.
Yeah, I think as the Deputy Director of Expansion, I think the biggest thing I want to highlight are the two changes that I brought to expansion. The first one is the Middle School Expansion Initiative, and that essentially reaches out to middle schoolers to help educate them about what JSA is, get them on a remind list, host info meetings so they kind of understand what we do, and then send out reminds right before they join high school so they can join the club at their school. And if they don't have a club, they have a direct line to the expansion department so they can get in touch. And that was our first partnership with CIA last year. I think it can be really, really great in terms of starting our expansion to middle schoolers in addition. And the second thing is the expansion contact form. And that essentially was the first time our department had actually gotten contacts from anyone outside the expansion department. And I think it made a really big change into how we run expansion. So I'm really proud of those, and I'm hopeful to continue those.
And Kelly?
Yeah, so I'd like to think I've had a decent impact on JSA, especially serving as Director of Publicity this past year. If I were going to narrow it down to two main things, I think first is definitely creating a visual aesthetic theme on the Instagram, and also streamlining the posting schedule to make sure all information gets out on time and in an organized fashion, and also that all agents are involved in pushing that information out. And I think the second main thing is the start of recaps and newsletters. So we started bi-monthly cabinet newsletters that increase transparency about cabinet, and also those Senate and House of Representatives recaps. So I think these two things really built the foundation of greater transparency and communication overall through publicity. And I would definitely work to expand and improve it next year. So in terms of tangible things, I think that's my greatest impact.
Great. So for this third question, we'll start with Kelly. And this one's our unconventional question. So we typically have one for each of the positions. So someone gives you an elephant. You cannot sell it and you cannot give it away. What do you do with the elephant? So Kelly.
Well, with the elephant, I'd probably not keep it in my house because it's probably the size of my backyard. So I'd probably find like a zoo or reservation to keep the elephant in, just to make sure it's cared for. And since I don't know much about elephants, I'll keep its care in the hands of professionals and zoologists, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Solid answer. What about you, Rachel?
To kind of bring it back to JSA, I would host elephant rides to raise money for people to come to convention. I think that could be kind of cool because you don't really see elephants in Texas. And then the second thing I would do is help people get from their hotel to the Fall State Capitol, because that walk in heels is not easy. So, you know, I would help people who need it get a ride.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Solid answer. And I will give it to Logan for the LTG questions.
Okay, hello everyone. We did have some great timing. If y'all are in Houston, there's like a huge thunderstorm right now. So if y'all hear some noise in the background, it's sort of going crazy outside my house. But hello to our LTG candidates, Diane Yu and Charles Hu. We're going to start with our first question for Deanne, and that is, as you may know, each of the big three members heads 2 to 3 cabinet departments each year. So if elected, which departments would you like to run, and how would you ensure proper collaboration and communication between your departments and the ones of your fellow big three members?
Yeah, okay, so for departments, I would say CIA, activism, and publicity. And the reason why is because I think that in this case, like all of these three departments, like working cohesively under like similar goals is really, really important, because especially with like the COVID-19 era, like I think publicity is really like the train for everything to truly get out there and succeed. So I think that with like my experience with being like a chapter president who did start from like a very low point and then has gotten to where I am right now, like I really understand the resources and guides that will really be helpful for chapter presidents, like no matter how big or small your chapter is. So I think fostering like good communication with activism as well, because that takes our talk to action, which I think is really important when it comes to an organization like the JSA.
Great. Charles?
Yeah, absolutely. So the 3 departments I would work with would be debate, convention, and fundraising. This is not only because of my experience as obviously the director of debate planning conventions, but also because the collaboration between these 3 departments is going to be really important for bringing across change, right? The lieutenant governor is responsible for the Senate and also elections, which are part of conventions, which is just one thing that will really streamline the process. But also by working with fundraising, we can help establish grants, for example, for candidates from lower income areas who don't have access to things such as posters or buttons to hand out at elections, to sort of streamline the process a little bit. With debate and convention, we can integrate better timings for certain debate blocks, or better utilization of the public resolutions input to create a better impact, as well as introduce new innovative technologies and new innovative practices. So fundraising to help raise money for candidates, as well as convention and debate.
Great. Okay, so our second question, we'll start with Charles. And as you mentioned, the LTG is in charge of the Fair Elections Committee and elections. So as LTG, how do you plan to increase enthusiasm and engagement for our regional elections?
Yeah, that's a great question, especially considering that I ran for regional office last year, and it was really hard to generate interest for my campaign, no matter how many people I contacted. So to generate more interest, the first thing is I would maintain sort of the online system that we've kept this year. For example, live streaming election speeches, as well as maintaining sort of an online voting platform so that you don't have to go to Spring State and pay $200 to vote for a regional candidate. The second thing would also be to publish guides and resources for these smaller regional candidates. I know a lot of regional candidates don't have as much experience, for example, making graphics or contacting people and sort of establishing a systematic way to campaign. And that's one of my biggest ideas, to publish more resources for smaller candidates, because once we have a higher skill level of candidates, more people are going to be attracted to pay attention to the outcome of these regional elections. And I think that's a really important step we need to take.
Wonderful. Deanne?
Yeah, so I think a really big barrier right now to regional candidates is all what Charles said, as well as the fact that a lot of people get to election season and they aren't sure if they are capable to run. And I think one of the biggest things we can do for that is having leadership conferences and summits early on in the year and having them more often so that people are more familiar with how to lead the JSA the best that they can. So then when election season comes around, they're more confident to be able to be like, okay, I want this and this to be changed and I know how to do it, instead of being, afraid that they won't have enough resources. So I think that, for example, in my platform, I have a part where like the big three or big six like lead these little advice giving and like workshops for people who want to be involved in leadership sometime in their JSA experience. So yeah.
Great. Okay, so for our last LTG question, this is our unconventional one, and I'll give you all a second to think about it. But if you had to change JSA's motto from Be the People to something else, what would you change it to? I'll give y'all just a second. Okay, we'll start with Deanne when you're ready.
Okay, so I would probably do something along the lines of like stronger together, or like something that has a lot of like, just having an emphasis on people working cohesively towards a certain goal. So as of now, it's going to be stronger together, and I will be very flexible with like stuff that's like very similar to this, because I think that an organization like the JSA is like very important to like fighting political apathy. And I think the biggest thing for that is for all of the departments, all of the delegates and everyone to like not see each other as like, oh, I'm going to do this to like outdo you. Like it's something that cooperation is super, super important for, and being able to like better understand each other and just utilize and maximize all of the amazing resources and skills that each department has. So I think with that, this motto will be like a pretty good embodiment of like the JSA's mission and like the virtues that we hold true.
Okay, I like it. Charles, how about you?
Okay, so the motto I came up with right now is Be the Change for a variety of reasons. First, be the people. That's not really an action item, right? Everyone is a people. Everyone is a person. So what does that really mean? If you look at Be the People, you're not motivated to do anything. It might motivate you to like go vote, but it's not very clear, right? But a lot of JSA's mission is making change. For example, activism or participating in politics, which is extremely impactful in an age of constant misinformation and hate. So being the change would give people an action item to look towards when they look towards the organization of JSA, right? So it's not sort of a neutral item. It sort of motivates people to go out and participate in activism projects, right? So let's say you're someone as an ambassador for JSA, and you're saying like, oh, our motto is Be the People. Then someone will be like, oh, that's pretty cool. But if you're saying, oh, our motto is Be the Change, we are making targeted change, and we are here to make a fundamental difference in our society, then that's a lot more impactful. And I think it would help our message a lot.
Good answer. Okay, so that wraps up our LTG section, and I will now pass it on to David for our governor's questioning.
Alrighty. All right. Jason and Kyan, how are y'all doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good too.
I am doing just fine. All right. So just a little bit of a, I guess, reminder. Answers are 1 minute. We'll start with Jason and then Kyan. For the second question, we'll start with Kyan, then Jason. And then for our third and unconventional question, we will be going back to Jason and Kyan. Is that fine with everyone? Alrighty. So our first question, and this is directed to you, Jason. As the head of our state, you'll be the primary person in charge of overseeing our state's activity and health. With that being said, how do you plan to improve the dead period between conventions and Texas JSA, specifically between Fall State and Winter Congress Spring State?
Yeah, so this actually ties in really nicely with a big part of my platform, which is making JSA more equitable and having more equal access to everyone. So we all are kind of a little bit tired of online conventions, I'm pretty sure, online meetings, all this stuff. But once we're back in person, I really feel like this is an amazing tool that can make us more interconnected with each other, especially during this dead period. So we had that really fun fall one day at the start of the school year, but why not increase that, have a winter one day, a spring one day, where we have more free online conventions or online meetings where we can meet as a state and get to know each other better and also have more interaction and be the people more. Moreover, I also have a plan where we can have a bi-weekly or monthly thought talks / debates that are hosted by the state on Zoom or Google Meets, where we can all come together as a state. And that's how I plan to fill in this dead period.
Solid response. And Mr. Kyan Howe, what about you?
So I'd say that the longest dead period is between WinterCon and Spring State. In my platform, I lay out a plan to set up a ChapterCon season between these two conventions. Now, as for Fall State and WinterCon, the gap is shorter. So I'll, of course, encourage more ChapterCons during that time. But it's also not about just convention. We also need to focus on activism as well. So in this dead period, so to speak, regions such as, say, if the GCR wanted to organize a group of chapters to go help out at the food bank during the springtime, or even during the lead up to the winter season, go have a potluck there and help out at the food bank, and organize regional activism initiatives, not only to promote interconnectedness, like how Jason said, but to also emphasize the activism part of JSA.
Sorry, I was drinking water right there. But solid response. All right. For our second question, and our first person to answer this will be Mr. Kyan. I'd like you to describe your vision for JSA on a national level and really how you plan on working with other governors from other states and national cabinet to achieve that vision. I understand this is a pretty big question and you only have a minute to respond, but just for the people of JSA, give like a very top level response. And
All right, I'll try my best to keep this as brief as possible, but in my capacity as a debate agent and a chapter president, I'd just like to say that for each convention, Fall State and WinterCon especially, I've worked with people from across the state and across the country, from the ORV, MAS, and PMW regions. So I already have a good rapport with a lot of people within those regions, and I know how to bridge the gap between our regions. So the overall vision that I have for national JSA is very simple. We come together in this organization based on mutual respect and understanding, and we come together in spite of our differences toward our shared JSA goal of promoting an active society and promote civic education and activism. So as your elected governor, I will work with governors and departments from across the country to promote civic engagement.
all right. And Mr. Jason Yao.
So just like Kyan, from these past conventions, the Fall State, Spring State, working with other states as CIA director, and from the ORV and Midwest, Mahek and Debbie are like my favorite people I've met from out of the state. I really would love to work with other states more next year. So that's where the fall one days or spring one days where we can continue to work with other states and meet new people outside of the state is like one of the bigger parts of what I want to do next year. Another big thing is, again, just making JSA more equitable to everyone and also making it a better value proposition to its students. Because a big thing about JSA is you're paying in $200 for conventions, you're paying in $10 for taxes. But what are you really getting out of JSA from JSA National? Like, this money is going to them, but what are they doing for you? A lot of my platform is making them do more for its students and working with the other governors to be a unified block that stands not against JSAF, but saying, hey, this is what we want, this is what we need, let's get it done.
All right. And for our final question and first response will be going to Mr. Jason Yao. If you were on Shark Tank, what would you be selling?
Ooh, okay. Shark Tank. Okay. Y'all ever just get a massive headache? Just on one side of your temple, just right here. And you always have to massage it kind of to try to get rid of it. So I would create a device just that sticks on one side of your head and just gets rid of that headache. Because not you guys are lovely people, but today has been a long day, been up a while. I'm getting a really big headache on this side of my head right now. And that's just all I can think of right now. I would make a device that would solve that, massage your head right here, and present it to Shark Tank. And just because I have a little bit extra time, how would I present it? You know, in the best way possible. I would make sure every single Shark Tank, every single shark will be funding it, and make sure I get a little bit of extra money for JSA.
Okay. Mr. Kyan Hao, what about you?
So I'd probably sell a service, mainly something probably around either that be probably baking because I'm pretty good at baking, or more I'd probably set up a virtual library of how do I say this? A virtual library of all the knowledge that has been sort of like a library of Alexandria, compile all this information into one database. So it's not like news articles, but old books, old books, and old knowledge and old teaching, spiritual teachings, and scientific advancements that have been taught for millennia. Because as the old saying goes, there's nothing new under the sun. So just compile all that information into one center. So.
Solid responses from both people. For the questions of the candidate forum, that concludes it. Logan George, would you like to handle the outro?
Yeah, thank you, David. Okay, so thank you all so much for our candidates for coming, and for our audience members, as well as the people watching this on YouTube past the event. We really appreciate y'all taking the time to ensure that you can make an informed choice about this election. So I just have a couple election reminders to end us off. The election will open on April 18th in about 4 days, and it'll be open the entire week up until the Saturday of Spring State, which is April 24th, and it'll close at noon Pacific time on that day. So be sure on the 18th or whenever you feel ready to vote during that week to check your email, and you should have an email from Choice Voting with a specific link that will take you to the Choice Voting website where you have your specific login and you can place your votes. Voting in JSA is important as voting everywhere. So please, please, please place your votes. And as always, you can reach out to me, David, or Shravya if you have any questions at all, and we can help you through that process. Other than that, thank you so much for coming, and be the people. Or be the change, as Charles said.
And for those of y'all still watching, do know that this is a candidates forum, and each and every candidate gave an honest answer to questions that were not provided to them beforehand. But do remember that this is just 3 questions asked to each and every person. Each and every candidate has so much more behind them. They have platforms, they have endorsements, and I'd encourage really everyone who's watching this and in Texas JSA, spread the message, to check out every person's platform. We've given, I guess, short little bio and connections to each and every person's Instagram page and campaign platform on the Texas JSA Instagram, which is texas.jsa. So yeah.
Good luck to all of the candidates. I wish you all the best.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
I think that went pretty well.
Not gonna lie, when I had to spotlight people, their names kept jumping up and down. So I would click on someone and then their name would disappear. And I'd be like, wait, uh-oh.
Yeah, they were probably like unmuting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop the recording.